video here coming in from Reuters. As you can see in the headline, Iraqi's Maliki hopes for government deal by next week. You see, folks, Maliki is the leader of the Shiites in the government structure over there. And from that headline, he's telling you that he hopes for a government deal by next week. So the fact that he is hoping tells you that he cannot act. And I think what's happening here is that without this government deal, the war carries on, which further confirms what a lot of people's suspicions are. All these people in power, all these politicians, they're all in on this. They need the destruction, they need the chaos up there in order for them to carry on lining their pockets. So if you just read a bit of what he said, if I can just find it here. Right. God willing, in the next session we will overcome it with cooperation and agreement and openness, he said. There is no security without complete political stability. That's the keynote right there. There is no security without complete political stability. He's telling you there's not gonna be calm, there's not gonna be peace without complete political stability. And he hasn't even got a clue if he can get this political stability. You've got the Sunnis, the Sunni speaker and most of the Sunni majority asking him to step down, and he's not going to step down. He's obviously been allowed to sit where he sat after the toppling of Saddam Hussein by the US, and you know, that tells you he's been put there by certain people, and those certain people are behind the ISIS or ISIL, whatever you want to call them. You know, and then I think you get this gentleman called Muhammad Hussam, who's a politician and an aide to leading Sunni lawmaker Saleh al-Mutlaq, saying each bloc has its own problems now. So as in each bloc, the Sunnis, the Shiites, they've got their own issues to deal with. There's not gonna be no political stability in this country, folks. He carries on to say, if the Shiite bloc failed to replace Maliki, there was a risk Sunni lawmakers would abandon the political process altogether. There would be no more Iraq. And then there's talk of them needing to be patient, whatever that means. You know, there's in this month that's just gone, June alone, nearly 3,000 people have been killed, and of course the US has taken advantage of that fact and tried to play down their destruction and violence and murders, cold-blooded murders in 2007. So here we have the United Nations said on Tuesday more than 2,400 Iraqis had been killed in June alone, making the month by far the deadliest since the height of sectarian warfare during the U.S. surge offensive in 2007. They don't even try and tell you that the U.S. basically went over there and just killed a whole lot of people. They like to make it sound a bit better for you. During sectarian warfare during the U.S. surge offensive in 2007. That sounds a bit better than saying, ooh, on Tuesday, the United States Nations said on Tuesday more than 2,400 Iraqis had been killed in June alone. They call their part of it surges and offensive and all these funky words. And then we've got citizens of this place saying, even if Maliki steps aside, something that is still far from certain, few in Baghdad expect that will mean a swift resolution to crisis. There's this guy, Haida Juma Zaboon, a 31-year-old construction worker in the district of Arasat, saying his departure would not solve the problem because Sunnis and Shiites will stay at odds with each other and the animosity will continue. So basically, this is all planned, folks. This has got to happen. You know, none of these politicians have got concerned that in 1 month alone, 2,400 of their own citizens, have just basically been wiped out. They're still arguing about who's gonna be the speaker, who's gonna be the president, and who's gonna be the lawmaker, and certain foolishness that when you've got that many people dying as a result of war in 1 month, you know, it's a civil war apparently, but you see rebels and people crossing borders from everywhere. Apparently, there's people from the UK over there, people from America over there, and there's no end to it. So, just to conclude, what I'm basically saying is, if you have the leader of the Shiites who's in power in government right now, saying to you, there's no time, he's just hoping, he doesn't have a time specific um, date or time frame to tell you when their problems in government are going to be sorted, and he further consolidates that by saying, without political stability there will be no security, and in the same breath he's telling you, he's basically, how long is a piece of rope? That's how long this is gonna take. So for anybody thinking, we're gonna have talks or them helicopters being sent by the American government, or Obama sending X amount of troops there is gonna stop this. That's rubbish. The U.S. and other countries and forces went over there with an agenda, and that was to take over the natural resources of that country, and to have military assets in what they consider to be a strategic location, which fairly recently this word called the Middle East has become widely used in society. That we knew those lands as the Arab lands, or Arabic part of the world, but now they call it the Middle East, and everything just sounds so crazy. The names Abu al-Baghdadi, and this guy's bad, and Baghdad, and it's so poetic, and it's so much like a novel. It's unbelievable, and people just need to wake up to these little things that keep getting said. I'll just read a bit more here. Longtime Malaki ally Sami Askari said forming a government could take until the end of Ramadan, the Muslim fasting month, but he played down the risk of the state collapsing, saying Malaki's caretaker government would continue to function. This is when X amount of thousands of people are dying in 1 month. That's just not dying, but that's being killed. And that's those that are reported on. You know, people do say that what they publish is literally half of what's actually going on. So if 10 people died, the news stories will say 5, because that's just how it goes. Nobody wants to be traumatized by all this news, and people will think, oh well, only 2,400 people. It's not 4,800. It's not. That's nearly 5,000 people in 1 month getting shot. And I'm sure it's in this article as well, where the Iraqi forces, it says somewhere, have gone and targeted these militants. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, there we go. Right, outside the capital, fighting flared again. Medical sources, whoever those are, and witnesses said at least 11 people, including women and children, had been killed when Iraqi helicopters attacked Shirkat, 300 kilometers, 190 miles north of Baghdad. So we've got Iraqi helicopters killing, their own women and children. So you notice that says 11, and that could easily be 22, or it could be 33 or more, or it could be 110. We don't know. We just being told medical sources and witnesses, and that's all you're ever told. That's the news. So you've got to think. You've got to make your own mind up and see what's being said to you and why and by who. Medical sources, that doesn't mean anything. Give us some names, verifiable information, as they call it. So witnesses said the helicopters were targeting a municipal building where militants were sheltering, and that the airstrike also hit 3 nearby houses. So these are the sort of things that we saw when Assange released all those leaks. Even though that's another rabbit hole to go down, but we kept seeing videos and documents of how the Allied or the Western forces and American Air Force were using drones and fighter jets targeting buildings, and Apache helicopters killing off journalists. And obviously they've trained the Iraqi forces as they are today. And you've got Iraqi soldiers killing Iraqi women and children. It doesn't say anything about they killed X amount of militants. All it tells you is they were targeting. They were targeting a municipal building where militants were sheltering, and that the airstrike also hit 3 nearby houses. So, did they kill any militants? We know they killed at least 11 people, because that's what medical sources and witnesses have said. So, my suspicion is that number is a lot higher than what's being reported on. But He doesn't say anything about how many militants have been killed or how many insurgents or whatever you want to call them these days. So, wake up. It's all a big game. Iraqi's Maliki hopes for government deal by next week. That government deal is not going to change anything on the ground anyway. So he needs to sort what's happening in his country. He needs to grow a pair and do what's best for his country, not what's best for these cartels and mafias and inhumane individuals. Thanks for watching. Peace.